So some of our listeners are going to be in a space of they're like an individual performer or a first line manager in that range. And they might be in a place where they go, I just don't fit into this culture. Like, how do you help somebody in that space? What lines do you toss to them around, I just don't fit into this culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that there's so many different ways to look at that. I don't think there's a single way to look at that, right? I still go back to inventorying as a first practice. Why? Like, why do you think you don't fit? Right. And by the way, I've been there. So I've been in those versions and I imagine I will be there again at some point. Right. It's just situations change. So then I think the first one is it's usually easy to cast blame on others, like, oh, well, they did this or they did that or this changed and that, and those may be true. I find it helpful to find out what changed about me. Am I
Mhm.
exactly the same as I was? Have my values changed? Is the way I'm being changed? Is that part of why I'm not? And I know, like, Ron, you and I have talked about it before because I have some background with what you do. Like, as a matter of course, because you deal with so many folks, like, oftentimes they don't recognize that the story they have for themselves is actually part of the problem of why that cultural fit isn't there, and that perhaps a different way of reflecting on who they're being and who they're being with others and how much they're engaging versus staying disengaged, right, could impact that. So there could be external people, external situations, and I would just make sure that in inventorying, the first one is to inventory yourself. I inventory myself, right? So I say, what has changed? Like, so for example, you could imagine after 15 years of being in a highly regulated, very formal industry,
Mhm.
that having a background before that 15 years of marketing and creativity and a lot of freedom, right? That as the pandemic broke out and I created this company in Expectations, it was all about this ability to express new and creative and innovative ways of things I wanted to do that I just hadn't had a voice for in my I'll call it a more formal role, right?
Mhm.
And so, but that wasn't my organization's fault. That wasn't my team's fault. That wasn't even a situational fault. It was a realization that I had changed in some fashion and how much I would benefit from be able to express things that it turns out I hadn't expressed fully in the last 15 years and return to some degree to being able to do that. Again, I can't go back to the way I was with it, but I get to be in this new version of expressing other things for myself. And when I realized that, and I realized, oh, this isn't their fault, like this is something I did. And it's caused some conversations about, evolving roles and who are going to be with each other in all organizations.